What's happening? You guys feel good? You look fantastic. Littleton, will you help me and say hi to everybody else? All the Denver-based locations, we love you so much. Brussels, Belgium, Austin, Texas, and the 3 best locations are men and women at our God Behind Bars. We love you guys. We love you so much. Thank you for being with us. And hey, if you're joining us for the first time, whether you're in a building or online somewhere, we just want you to know right up top, we're just a bunch of messed up, imperfect people, but we love to get together and pursue a perfect God. So no matter what you've been through, no matter what you're going through, no matter whether you feel like I've never been this close to God in my life, or you feel like I don't know if I've ever been farther from God in my life, wherever you're at, we want you to know in this place, you're gonna be loved and welcomed and valued and accepted. You've already been prayed for. Welcome home. Welcome to Red Rocks Church. Hey, we are going to have an amazing day of church. I'm about to introduce today's speaker, and when I do, when he comes up, I want you guys to go crazy. Give him a Red Rocks Church welcome that will blow him away. But here's what I want to say first. If you've been going through this series with us, actually the last few series, we have talked a lot about purposefully and intentionally getting into the presence of God. And what I know is because I'm like you, even on my best days with my best intentions, sometimes I go, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get into the presence of God today. And then we kind of like get up and get ready and go, now what, right? And I'm gonna get in the Bible and where do I start? And I wanna, right? And so what I like to do from time to time is add some real structure to my time when it comes to getting in the presence of God. And I just started doing that recently with this book. Levi Lusko wrote this new book called Take Back Your Life, a 40-day interactive journey to thinking right so you can live right. And I just started going through this myself, and it's really great because it doesn't take long, each chapter, but it's a 40-day plan. And if you miss a few days, fine, jump right back in where you left off. Just a few minutes. He's always interesting. The guy is annoyingly brilliant. But then he'll work in some scripture and you'll get a piece of the Bible in your heart. And then he actually says, now let's take some time and think about this today. Pray about this today. Maybe write down a sentence or two about this today. And this has been so great for me, such a blessing to me that I want to invite you to grab this book wherever you get books and join me for this 40-day journey together. Amen? Hey, church, will you give it up for my brother, the one and only Levi Lusko?
Come on, Red Rocks Church. It is such a privilege, a pleasure to be back. My wife and I love this church, love you. Come on, make noise every location, church online, those listening after the fact on the podcast. Maybe you're on your elliptical right now. We're grateful you're here. In just a moment, we'll pray and be seated, but let me just say real quickly how much this church family means to me. I know you're like, Levi, you say that every single time? Because I mean it every single time. And I like to mix it up at what I choose to bring out by way of gratitude. And by the way, that is one of the best ways to change your life, is just to learn to be more grateful. And I was thinking about just one of the many things that I'm so thankful for, and that's just the powerful anointing that God has put upon your pastor. Let me just give you a glimpse, a snapshot of that. We recently had him up to preach for us at Fresh Life in Montana, and that's where we broadcast from. And like you, we go out to different locations and places and into prisons, and come on, the word of God cannot be chained, right? It's just a beautiful thing. And our team told us that after Pastor Sean preached, it was the most viewed sermon ever in the history of Fresh Life Church. Just ever. That's more than any sermon I've ever given. I'm not bitter. I'm happy for my friend. I'm more than any sermon any guest preacher has ever given in our church. And I only say that not to touch any ego, but just to say how good is God when someone offers themselves up to him to be used, that he is faithful to use that to make much of Jesus. So I know you're a part of the ministry and you hear the reports and the millions given to outreach and all that's happening here. But I want you to know that God is doing something in the life of your church that extends beyond just what you're doing here with your church as well. And when I say here, I mean also in Denver, other locations, and also in Austin, Texas, and Brussels, but also through other churches that Pastor Sean and Jill are so kind to open their hearts to, open their lives to, and even sacrificially to travel to and minister God's word and encourage. So he's doing so much more through you than you're aware of. So Father, we're thankful. We're thankful for the worship. We're thankful for every single leader, every single volunteer, every single person who sacrificially gives to make this work possible. And just that we get to experience your presence. And I thank you that you have something very specific you want to impart to us. And your word says that if we draw near to you, you will draw near to us. No one has ever reached out to you in faith and been disappointed, because you are always there to reach, to open, to touch. You said that if we knock, the door's gonna be open to us. So that's what we're doing. We're quieting our hearts by the act of faith of coming into this gathering, of logging on to this broadcast, of listening to this message. We're choosing to say no to the world, that we might say yes to heaven here in this moment. And we want to hear from you, God. We want to encounter you. And we believe it's going to happen. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated, and if you have a Bible, turn with me to the Old Testament book of Genesis, chapter 28. Genesis 28, while you're turning there, let me just say, I love resources. I myself have discovered and fallen in love with the superpower of reading, and my life wouldn't be what it is apart from that discipline. It's been said that readers are leaders and leaders are readers. And God just has a way when you read. I mean, God loves books so much, he wrote one, right? And when you read, it just changes your life. And so I've given my life over to publishing and trying to write books that help people. And I wanted to let you know about two of them. One of them I'll be speaking around the topic of, and it's called Take Back Your Life. And it's a devotional, a 40-day interactive journey to learning to think right so you can live right. Because I don't know if you are aware, but if you're thinking negative, destructive thoughts, you can't lead a positive, healthy life. And so this devotional encourages you to be still and to know that he's God, and to journal and to reflect and to open your heart up to scripture. And so I'll be talking around the topic of why that's so important in just a moment. But I also want to let you know of one for those of you who are families, who lead families, your parents, our family. Those of you who are families, your parents, you have kids, and you're like, I wanna do what Rahab was told to do, and to keep that scarlet cord up in the window of our home, right? Which is a picture of keeping the blood of Christ over this house, like the Passover act of the blood of the lamb over the doorpost, and the death angel would pass over. Right? Like if you're a parent, you should and can care about your kids' college and how they do at soccer, but what is more important than your child's soul? What is more important than your son or daughter knowing Jesus and having the hope of heaven? We must not orient our homes and lives and futures around what is sand. Because when the storms of this life come, be it a car accident or leukemia or war, when we build on sand, the house's fall is great. But when we build on the solid rock, the storms can come and the winds can blow, but that house will stand. And if our kids know Jesus, then we will know them forever. Come on, somebody. That is what it's all about. So we recently put together a resource called Roar Like a Lion. I'm holding it in my hands, and it's a tool for families to help shepherd their kids' hearts, and specifically to teach your kids about how to handle hard things, of course, while you're in it, but before you go through it as well. And so this is something that we've found, and by God's grace, families around the world have been using. So we hope that you'll grab one or both of these, and they'll make a difference and be of benefit to you. But the title of my message today is A Morning Routine That Could Change Your Life. How to have a morning routine that can change your life. My wife and I do a podcast called Hey, It's the Luskos, and we interview musicians and pastors and leaders and thinkers. We got to talk one time to a guy who walked on the moon, no big deal. Charlie Duke, he was on Apollo 16. But when I interviewed him, that was an interesting moment. I asked him about it. He said, going to the moon didn't change my life. He says, that happened afterwards when I met Jesus. And he says, now that I know Jesus, I look back on the moon differently. But I got back from the moon just as empty and lost as I was before I went to the moon. But one of the things that I love to do when I interview leaders or when I get to talk to anybody who's successful on any level is to ask them about how they start their day. Because it seems that those who are world-class performers in any discipline have this in common. They are intentional about how they begin each new day. The Bible does talk about how the end of a thing is oftentimes shaped by the beginning of a thing. Now, of course, our God's not limited by that, and he can teach old dogs new tricks. Thanks be to God for that. But the reality is, why would we throw ourselves off a cliff and hope for the angels to catch our feet? The point is, you can have a day that becomes a dumpster fire, and you can hit the hard reset on that. You can. It's a lie to say this day is no good. But we all do that. We all say, oh, this day is no good. Why? Because I'm just in a bad mood. And once you've written off that day, it's just sweatpants and Ben and Jerry's, right? And a binge session on Netflix. We make the mistake of thinking that a day is bad just because it's gone bad. But the truth is we can hard reset a day that has become a dumpster fire. But why do that if you don't need to? Why would you not choose to intentionally begin a day moving towards what you want to be the outcome of that day, to have some vision in mind, to have some idea or goal in mind of what you want to see that day to be? I love to collect anecdotes and stories of morning routines of those who have accomplished something in this world, and I brought a couple of them with me. Oprah Winfrey begins every single day, she says, at 6:02. A time that she wakes up at without the use of an alarm clock. 6:02, she decides before she goes to sleep, that's when Oprah is waking up, and that's when Oprah wakes up, 6:02 in the morning. She says that she does no email every morning until she has accomplished some deep work, some work that would be of a creative nature or a productive nature. Then and only then does she open email. Benjamin Franklin, he had a famous 3-hour-long morning routine that included this question he would pose to himself every single morning. What good shall I do today? Dang, Benjamin, right? If you began your day with nothing else and just asking yourself that question, writing it out, putting it in lipstick over your mirror, what good shall I do today? I think you'd be better off than just how most of us begin our days, which is like 17 minutes on Instagram and then a Frappuccino, right? So you're like 17 minutes, more like 1.7 hours. I get it. You're addicted. Teddy Roosevelt, he a prodigious reader his whole life. He even during his busiest time, when he was the president of the United States, the youngest person ever to do so at the age of 42 because of the assassination of McKinley, President Roosevelt all of a sudden is in the White House, and he would read 3 books on average per day, every single day, even as president, right? With all of the things that were weighing on him and the people that needed time from him, he would still most days finish 3 books per day. And that's how he got to be on Mount Rushmore, y'all, right? They ain't never putting me on Mount Rushmore because they're not gonna read my journal and go, Levi read 3 books on this day. They're gonna be, had a smoothie and went to a spin class. It's like, oh, geez, they're not chiseling you into stone anywhere, bro. But when pressed, how did he do that? He said, well, simple, I always finished 1 before breakfast. So he would use his morning time to do some reading. A while back, you probably saw this, it made the rounds of Pinterest and all the things. Mark Wahlberg had posted on Instagram his morning routine, which involved waking up at 2:30 in the morning for prayer, and then he would go have breakfast, go to his first workout of the day, play golf, and then do cryo all before 10:30. All right, we get it, Marky Mark, you're the best. Winston Churchill, on the other hand, would never get out of bed before 11, ever. Even during the height of being in the thick of World War II, he would always get out of bed at 11, even though he woke up every single day on the dot at 7:30. And in his bed, he would have breakfast brought in, as well as all the newspapers from all around the country, and then all of the correspondence he needed to get to. And then he would bring in all of his war secretaries and the secretaries of these different roles, and he would dictate where this battalion needs to go, and this needs to happen, and do this, all from bed. When he finally would get out of bed at 11, he would take his first of several baths of the day, and then he would begin, he'd already had like probably a whole bottle of champagne or something. From the bathtub, he would still continue to dictate to his secretaries who were right outside the room. And he always, this is interesting, always took a nap at 5 p.m. Sharp at 5 p.m. he would take a nap. Why? Because he said, I'm always freshest in the morning, and if I take a nap, I get 2 mornings, y'all. That's called gaming the system. Well, we're going to look in Genesis chapter 28 as someone whose life was impacted in such a way that he literally was a different person as a result of what took place. And when he woke up that morning, the day was completely different. His life was completely different. His name was Jacob. And my hope is that you wouldn't emulate any of these individuals necessarily or try and do exactly what Jacob did, but rather that you would ask the question, what does it take for me to wake up my soul each day? What does it take for me to wake up my soul? For you to be able to show up at your best, you need to understand what it takes for you to suit up as your best. And you are never ready to face the game without your game face on. A lot of attention is put on what happens in the arena, what happens in the auditorium, what happens on the field, in the business meeting room, in that boardroom, what happens on the battlefield. But I'm telling you, it's not just the game that matters in life. Oftentimes, the secret sauce is the game before the game. And as Michael Jordan once put it, it is what that is done in empty gyms that fills up arenas. And so we come to Genesis chapter 28, where in verse 10, we read, now Jacob went out from Beersheba. Someone just woke up. Did you say beer? Yep, Beersheba. It's like a Willy Wonka land full of IPAs. And he went toward Haran. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and he put it at his head and he lay down in that place to sleep. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven. And there, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and your descendants. Also, your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. And in you and in your seed, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Behold, and God is speaking this to you, I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid, and he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So here's his routine now. Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put at his head, and he set it up as a pillar, and he poured oil out on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of the city had been previously Luz. Now, you should know that the word Bethel means house of God. So God is here. I realize I'm not alone like I thought I was. God is here, so I'm calling this place God is here. I'm saying that out loud. Then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and keep me in this way, which he said he's going to do, then I'm going, and he will give me bread to eat and clothing to put on my back, which is a promise God made for you, that he knows what you need, that he's going to take care of you, that you can pray, give me this day my daily bread. Now that's not a promise for Costco-sized portions. We're going to have to come back to him tomorrow, but that's how he intends for it to be. If he gave you everything you needed for the rest of your life, what would you need him for? What would you need faith for? So he wants day to day for us to trust him, to walk with him. There's no promise of what he's going to do tomorrow. We're not promised next year, but we have today. and he's gonna provide for us today. So he says, if that's the case, if that's what you've promised, and then here's what I'm gonna say, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone, which I have set up as a pillar, it shall be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. A morning routine that could change your life. Regardless of what you do for work or what you do for your body or what you do for your mind each morning, whether you end up like Churchill and you stay in bed and work, or you are like Oprah and you figure out how to set your internal alarm clock, let me tell you, the most important thing is that you can discern and discover how to wake up your soul. Now, Jacob was sleeping, has this encounter with God, then he wakes up and he's a different person. Literally, his name will eventually be changed to Israel. Like not even the same person anymore. He goes full prince and he is the artist formerly known as, right? He is now someone governed by God, which is what Israel means. And the rest, as they say, is history. In the Bible, the concept of sleep is a confusing one because as you read in scriptures, sleep is used in 4 different ways. And I want to show you examples of all 4. First of all, in scripture, sleep can be used to describe someone who's actually biologically sleeping. And this is how it's used in Mark 4:38 when it says Jesus was in the boat, and while he was in the boat, he fell asleep on a pillow. I will point out that Jesus brought his own pillow to the boat ride because he planned on taking a nap. He was like Churchill. He's like, no, I'm going to just sleep. And they got into a big storm and everyone was all scared, but Jesus is not fazed by it. He was not worried. He was resting. And he rests in the middle of your storm and he wants to give you that same rest. So what is sleep? Sleep is actually sleeping, but it gets more complicated because sleep can also mean dead. Now, that's a weird one. To be biologically dead can refer to sleeping, but only, this is huge, only when it is a Christian who has died. The New Testament, Paul in 1 Thessalonians, as well as Jesus in John chapter 11, use the concept of sleeping as a metaphor to explain what happens to a body of a Christian that has been buried into the ground. We write R.I.P., rest in peace on a grave. But really, as God sees it, he's in the future going to raise that person in power. So R.I.P. could be in our minds to be continued, basically, which is the idea of cemetery, which comes from the Latin word dormitory, which is where we refer to a college dorms. It means a temporary sleeping arrangement. You don't live in the dorms forever. And neither will your body stay. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Come on, when Jesus comes back, he's gonna give the shout, the command, the voice of an archangel, the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. In between now and then, their spirits are with Jesus in heaven, where they went instantly the moment they breathed their last breath on this earth. They took their first breath in eternity. 2 Corinthians 5 makes that abundantly clear, as well as the entirety of the New Testament. But the body is essentially sleeping. John 11:11, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to wake him up. Now, Lazarus was not sleeping in the sense that we know sleeping. He had died. And Jesus wanted his disciples to know that. So it's letting us look at death through God's glasses. If you're in Christ, it's not the thing that you need to be afraid of and terrified of. It's our enemy, but it's a defeated enemy. That's just extra. All right, number 3, sleep, when referring to someone who does not know Jesus, is in the Bible how God refers to someone who is lost. In Ephesians 5, the gospel invitation echoes out. Wake up, Ephesians 5:14. O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. This is an invitation to come out of the caskets of the sleeping person who biologically is awake and walking, but inside there is a death inside their heart. Sleep is a metaphor to describe a lost person's state on the inside, even while they live. And then finally, and very important for our consideration today, sleep in the New Testament is used to describe a lazy, non-aggressive Christian. A Christian who has shifted into cruise control. Oh yeah, I got saved back at the Promise Keepers rally, gave my life to Christ back when Pastor Sean was preaching in 2007. Yeah, I remember that series, that time. But the person who has pretty much not been doing anything to move forward in their walk with Christ. The person who knows Jesus and knows they're not going to hell, but is not doing anything to make heaven crowded. The lazy, non-aggressive, cruise control, status quo, I'm comfortable, right? This is the person that the devil wants to keep you sleeping. The devil doesn't want to bring any trials your way. He's like, shh, don't wake the sleeping Christian. They're just so happy. They're just so content where they are. I hope that doesn't describe you. To the sleeping Christian, Paul says in Romans 13, the hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. What does that mean? That means we have less time in front of us than we think we do because either we're gonna die or Jesus is gonna come. But regardless of which of those two brings us to heaven, we will not be able to share our faith. We will not be able to feed the hungry. We will not be able to encourage the afflicted. How awful would sharing your faith be in heaven? Do you know Jesus? Yes, I know Jesus. Everyone starts worshiping, throwing their crowns down. You're, We can now. The night is coming when no one can work. Pencils down is going to be here before we know it. Only one life, Red Rocks Church. And it will soon be past, but only what's done for Christ will last. Well, Jacob, on this day when he woke up from this dream, from this state, he was awake in just about every sense of the word. Now, a little backstory will help. He had run from his home situation because his sinful nature had caught up to him. He had deceived his brother. He had deceived his dad. He had made a mess of his life, and he had no one to blame but himself for the fact that his brother Esau, his twin brother Esau, was literally, not figuratively, going to kill him, right? Like, oh yeah, we all have weird, brothers. No, his brother was like actually gonna kill him. His mom was like, you need to go. I saw him sharpening his hatchet, okay? And Esau had, he was the man's man. Of the two, Esau was the one who could snap a deer's neck with his bare fingers. Jacob knew when Nordstrom was having their half-annual sale, right? That was just how they rolled. And so he was not suited for wilderness survival. This was no Bear Grylls, as evidenced by his choice of a pillow, okay? It's not an REI-approved move. He just grabs a rock and he goes to sleep. He's like, this looks good, right? Esau would have stuffed leaves into his shirt and, he would have figured it all out. That no. Jacob was afraid. He was terrified. He's like, you just see him like hugging his knees, like hearing noises, and like in Snow White, like the woo, right? And he's terrified. Like he's like Michael Scott on a camping trip. He cut his pant legs off for some reason, right? There's no reason you would do that. Now he's duct taped them back on and he's about to eat the poisonous berries. From this moment in Genesis 28 though, everything changes in his life. Everything changes. Where he was just conniving only about me and isolating everyone. You look at Jacob post this moment and just God's hand of blessing is upon him. Not that he's perfect. He still has flaws and failures and ends up with 4 wives, different sermon, don't recommend it. But from this moment forward, you watch God's hand of blessing upon him. In fact, when we meet Jacob just a few chapters later, chapter 30, he's described as being exceedingly prosperous, not just financially, but also that way, with large flocks, female and male servants, camels and donkeys. He ran out of his tent penniless with only a staff, that's literally all he had, but ends up so large he has to divide his company into 2 groups when crossing rivers. He just has God's blessing upon him, and it's shining through in every possible sense of the word. Like Jude says, he's prospering in all ways, even as his soul is prospering. And to me, what's so amazing about this encounter and what made this difference in Jacob's life is these 4 key ingredients that I hope will be evident in your life. And they are, if you're taking notes, number 1, that Jacob was amazed. Jacob was amazed. A new body of science and research is exposing how good awe is for the human body, how good awe is for your brain. They say that looking at a vista like the Grand Canyon or Pikes Peak or even a painting of something like that can release antidepressant type things inside your bloodstream. A study was done called just how good awe is for you, the power of awe. Google it. It's incredible. Jacob here is experiencing real awe. Not just the kind of awe of Psalm 19, which says all of what God has created brings him glory, but the awe of seeing God's glory in this dream as he has an encounter with God. This is amazing, but it teaches us much about how heaven works. You have to understand something. This vision that he had of a ladder that came down from heaven with angels going up and down upon it is God telling Jacob, it's not like you think when you want to have a relationship with me. Because in that day, the way that people thought you had a relationship with God was Genesis 10. You got to build your way up to God. You got to build your own Tower of Babel. It's like many people think today, got to go to church enough, got to do nice enough things, got to give enough of my money to the poor. If I do enough of that, I will build my way up some stairs that I will make to the heaven. And here Jacob has done nothing good, has done nothing right, has done nothing deserving of God's presence. And while he's there, vile and naked and alone, God comes to him. God seeks him. He's the lost sheep and God seeks him out. And the ladder comes down and the invitation is, have a relationship with me. Though you've done nothing, I've done everything. Come on in. And Jacob woke up and said, this is how heaven works. This is the gate of heaven, which literally is a translation of the word Babylon. Babylon is not how you get to heaven. This is the gate of heaven. God's sending a ladder down. And if you don't understand what I'm trying to communicate, that ladder has a name, and its name is Jesus, and he is the hope of salvation. And heaven doesn't work through you doing enough to earn your way to God. Heaven works by Jesus sending the ladder down. And then you can have a relationship with him. So Jacob is amazed over the power and the reality of the gospel. And Jesus made that connection firm in the Gospel of John when he said, you will see the heavens open and you will see the angels ascending and descending, same language, upon the Son of Man. So Jacob's amazed, and that was a part of what changed his life, and we should foster that as well. Prioritize being blown away, not only by the goodness of God, but also the goodness of what he's put into creation. Secondly, Jacob wanted to be included and was included in God's unfolding plan. He was told, God said, I'm gonna do this great work, and I'm gonna include you. I'm gonna use your seed. I'm gonna use your family. I'm gonna use your children. I'm gonna draw people to myself from the east and the west and the north and the south. And he didn't say, and you've made such a mess, I just want you to shut up and be quiet and stay over here. And no, he said, I want to include you. I've got this great big vision of a full heaven. I've got this great big vision of people from every tribe and tongue and language. And Jacob, I want to include you. So what did Jacob do? He says, I'm in. Here's this pillar. How did I get it? All I have is a pillow. Well, that's gonna have to do. My pillow becomes a pillar. What is a pillow? It's a symbol of comfort. I love my pillow. Pastor Sean knows I love my pillow. I'm advertising and always telling people about the kind of pillow that we use because I love it. It's a symbol to me of comfort. It's a labor of love to be here in Denver because my pillow's in Montana, all right? And I miss it, and I can't wait to get back to it, and I want to embrace it. Pillows are a symbol of comfort. What did he do when he took a pillow and he turned it into a pillar? He was surrendering his comfort. And that is what it takes for us to be a part of God's unfolding plan. God wants to reach the world through you. Will you take your pillow and turn it into a pillar? Will you take your comfort of I just listened to these messages and ooh, I love Red Rocks worship and it's so wonderful and say, I'm actually gonna begin serving. I'm actually gonna begin to get on a team. I'm actually gonna get into a group. I'm actually gonna take that next step and begin to say, how do I extend the reach of what God's doing? I want to be included in the story. I want to be in the credits. I want to be a part of what God's doing. And that was Jacob in putting this pillar up. He was saying, this is going to be the first stone of God's house. It may not look like much. And that might be at times how you feel about your contribution. Oh, other people have more gifts. Other people are more blessed of God. Other people can serve. But I'm telling you, God wants to use you. He sees your little 5 loaves and your little 2 fish, and he says, I can do something with that. Wait till you see what happens when I fill you up with my Spirit, which is a symbol of oil. In the Bible, oil is a symbol of the Spirit. That's why he poured one out for the homies. He poured out the oil on the pillar. He was saying essentially, I need God's help. I need God's Spirit. I'm making this oath, but I need to be anointed to do it. And you know what? When you take that step of faith to begin serving here at Red Rocks, and you take that step of faith and open up your home and start a watch party wherever you live in the world, God's going to anoint you for that service. God always fills what he forms, and he's forming you to be a part of the house. He's going to fill you with his Holy Spirit and give you what you need to do it. Amazed, awe, included a part of the story. So what did he do next? He immediately let his resource follow his heart, and he became invested. Every single time I get excited about something, whether it's fly fishing or split boarding or camping, you know what's funny about that? My resources follow my passions. Anybody else with me? Do you have a graveyard in your garage of things you were really excited about for a season, right? It's crazy how when you're excited about something, it's not hard to spend money on it. When you get excited about a new company who's making clothes or a new product, your money just flies out of your bank account towards your passion. So it's so funny to me that the moment this penniless person who has nothing but a pillow, he turned into a pillar and poured one out for a homies, immediately makes a declaration, for the rest of my life, any money you ever give me, I'm giving the first 10% of it back to you to extend the reach of your kingdom. Why is that? Because his heart's gotten involved. You cannot have your heart involved in anything without resource automatically following after it. Why? Because love always gives. God so loved the world, he gave. You can give without loving, but it is impossible to love without giving. So the moment Jacob now becomes included, he wants to be invested. When your friend who's annoying tells you all about Bitcoin, you finally eventually, right, invest in it. You hear about something long enough, you get your heart stirred about something long enough, and you're eventually gonna invest in that thing. If you're here and you're like, well, this is amazing, and this church is okay, and I come sometimes here, and I go to this other church sometimes, and then sometimes I'm at this other church, I'm telling you, you make that change and start investing, you'll become an owner, you'll become a part of this thing. It will change how you view this experience entirely. Y'all, do what Jesus did. Get some skin in the game. It will change your life. That's how Jacob became exceedingly prosperous, by the way, because he didn't wait till he had a lot of money to begin to practice the art of generosity. While he was poor, he said, bless me with anything, and that first 10% is going to you. And so as God blessed him with little, he honored God, and God was able to trust more to him. That's how it works. Isn't that what Jesus said? He said that if you seek me with all your heart, the kingdom of God and his righteousness, what will happen? All of these things will be added unto you. I love different stories of how this works in the lives of people in history. Like if you use Colgate toothpaste. Anybody at all of our locations, Church Online, you Colgate? No, how about you Crest people? You Crest people? This is Colorado. There's probably some like you make your own toothpaste kind of people in here. You disgust me. All right. The kombucha drinking crowd over there, all right? Well, Colgate was started, if you don't know, by a man named William Colgate, and he started it originally just to make soap. And he was a young man, just, teenager, and he had this dream of starting a soap company, and he got on a ship bound for New York to start this new company, and the ship captain befriended him, and the ship captain was a Jesus follower, and so was young Colgate, who had a Jesus-fearing mom who had told him about Jesus his whole life, and on the ship, they had this whole long journey across the ocean from England, and the ship captain was like, what are you doing? Well, I'm gonna start a soap company. It's gonna be called Colgate, and it's gonna have this big dream, and the guy told him essentially, look, here's a couple things I want you to do. No matter what happens, never ever give less than a pound of soap when you've sold a pound of soap. If you're gonna err, give more, right? Under promise, over deliver. Don't rip people off. Don't cut corners. Practice integrity with your business. Always do more than you were asked to do. He said, all right, I can do that. And the ship captain then said, hey, and no matter what happens, as God blesses you, always give 10% of what he blesses you with your business back to the work of God in the earth. And if you do these two things, God will bless your business. And so he did. And he practiced those things as he started this small little, garage startup company, Colgate, cosmetic products. And God began to bless him as he gave 10% away. And he had so much money coming in soon that he upped it and he started giving 20% away. And the business scaled even more and grew even more. So he then gave 2/10 away. And then 30% of the money was going into the kingdom. Now there was so much money coming in, he started to just fund passion projects above and beyond this tithing and then this triple tithing. He eventually funded the translation of the Bible into different languages. And then he opened up a Christian college, one of the first on the East Coast. And by the end of his life, he was giving away 50% of all the income that was coming into him to bless the work of God in the world. And he found what you will discover: the more you give, the more God can trust you. The more you give, the more blessed you'll be. And I'm believing that there's gonna be some people today who are gonna stop feeling bad that you're not called to be a worship leader or a missionary or a pastor, but you are gonna have the Spirit of God call you into the marketplace, into the world of tech, into the world of finance, into the world of crypto, into the medical sphere. And his calling on your life is to scale that company and to not feel bad about that, because you will be able to bankroll the kingdom of God with that spirit and sense upon you that you have a call on your life to fund the preaching, to fund the translation, to fund the work that's going to be done to help the homeless and all those other things. God gives some people visions, and he gives other people the capacity to create wealth. Now, the trick is to not ever let those riches distort your sense of mission and your sense of calling. What I'm trying to say is that it takes a plan in order to thrive commercially and not fail spiritually. And God gave us just such a plan when he called us to tithe. Because every single time you write that tithe check, and then above and beyond that, offerings as well, what are you doing? You're stabbing a stake through the heart of idolatry. You're stabbing a stake through the heart of greed. You're reminding yourself it's all his to begin with. Not just the money, but your ability. Not just the money, but your mind. Not just the money, but that idea. Not just the money, but the country you were born in. Not just the money, but the privilege you have. Not just the money, but the school that you went to. Not just the money, but you're like, I'm a self-made man. I'm like, which part of yourself did you make, man? You growing kidneys in your garage, right? You could have been born with no arms and no legs. So if you have anything, God gave it to you. Tithing honors that, reflects that, and sets you up like Jacob to be safe for God to bless. All right, we're winding this down. The last thing is that Jacob became dedicated, amazed, included, invested, and then dedicated. And this comes down to really where we want our mornings to lead us into each and every day. He said, then you're gonna be my God. I'm gonna follow you. I'm dedicating myself to you. I will follow you. He was essentially raising up his hands and saying to God, I'm yours. Do what you want through me. Here I am, send me. The prayer that if you're ready to pray will change everything in your life. He did what Peter did. He let Jesus into his boat. Peter had a fishing boat, and Jesus said, can I use this to preach? Jesus was welcomed into Peter's boat. He used it to preach a sermon. I think Jacob here is doing the same thing. God, you can use my boat. You can use my life. What can God do when someone says, here am I, send me? Well, just take that step of faith and you will find out. So what does the morning routine need to look like? Well, I don't know exactly what it's gonna take for you, but I know that some part of it should include Psalm chapter 5, verse 3, which David said, my voice you shall hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning, I will direct it to you, and I will look up. And so, Father, my prayer for all of us is that we would intentionally craft the beginnings of each day in such a way that would wake our souls up to who you are, to whose we are, and to what we are all about. Not just this world and the temporary things and what's been bought and what's going to be eaten. and who's gonna like what on social media, who's wearing what at the next award show, but what you're doing, your kingdom, your power, your glory forever. That these things would be on our minds and in our hearts. And I pray, God, that we would have the wisdom to not rush to speak to people before our hearts have spoken to you. And if, as we're praying, if you would just say, some part of this message, the Holy Spirit touched me. Maybe it's the giving thing. Maybe it's the realization that you need to join a team. Take that little faith step, get into a small group here at Red Rocks to make this your church in a more full way, to take your pillow and turn it into a pillar. Could I just ask that you would just raise up a hand? You're saying to God, I've heard you, I'm responding to you. And with your hand open, you're saying, here am I, send me. Send me into my campus. Send me into my workplace. Send me into those mountains hiking. Send me, God. Put the right person on the chairlift next to me. Put the right person at the gas station next to me. Put the right person in the grocery store. Alert me to the fact that someone needs me to pay for their groceries. Alert me to the fact that someone needs a kind word, a prayer, an invitation to church. God, send us out because the fields are white for harvest, but the workers are few. So my prayer over this church is that we would be workers in your field. You can put your hands down. And I want to give an invitation for anybody today who's been living in Genesis 10. You're trying to make it up that tower of Babylon. You think heaven is something you get to where you do enough good things and eventually God puts a star in your chart. But the reality is, Jesus Christ is the ladder that was sent down. And as unworthy as you are, as guilty as you feel, as broken as your life is, he has come to you in the wilderness. He has come to you in a certain place to say to you, this is the house of God, so that you can every day wake up and say, God was in this place and I knew it not. So I want to lead you in a prayer if you're ready to dedicate your life to God, to give your heart to Jesus. To be clear, I'm talking about repenting from sin, turning to him in faith, accepting what Jesus did on the cross and when he rose from the dead, to be your Lord, to be your Savior. This is denying yourself and choosing to follow him. Everything changes as you give your life to Jesus. Heaven in front of you, the world behind you. And only God can tell what will happen as you give your life over to him. So if that's you, I'm gonna pray a simple prayer, like a wedding vow that would be said at a wedding. And the key thing isn't you getting the exact wording right. This isn't Harry Potter. This isn't some spell. This is you saying to Jesus, I'm in, I'm all in. I wanna follow you. So say this to God out loud, mean it in your heart. Church family, say it with us. Dear God, I know that I'm a sinner. I can't do anything about that. I can't save myself, but I believe Jesus can because he died for me and rose from the dead. So I give myself to you. I dedicate myself to your kingdom. Fill me with your spirit. Thank you for including me in your plan. In Jesus' name. Head still bowed, eyes still closed. I'm gonna count to 3, and when I get to 3, I'm gonna ask that you would just shoot your hand up. This is you turning that stone over. This is you pouring that oil out. This is you saying, this is real. This just happened. I am a child of God. When I get to 3, shoot your hand up in the air. You're listening on Spotify in your car. You shoot your hand up in your Prius right there, right where you are. Go down that road. Keep one hand on the wheel, but the other hand, raise it up. You're saying, I've just given my heart to Christ. 1, 2, 3. Shoot them up, shoot them up. Come on, every single location. Come on, raise your hand up. Raise your hand up. God sees you. He sees you on YouTube. He sees you at every location. Come on, church, we're excited for those making that decision. And let's jump up on our feet and let's sing out together.